Good evening. Welcome to Town Hall. It is Wednesday, March 9th, 6:30 p.m. We have a budget work session tonight to hear requests from human service agencies. First order of business is the pledge to the flag. So tonight we will be hearing requests from outside agencies, and I do ask, we will be hearing from a lot from you tonight, so if you could sort of keep that in mind, that we expect to have about 15 presentations. We'd like you to identify yourself, obviously, the organization you represent, the requests you're asking for, and obviously what that use will be for. So with that said, I'll turn it over to Terry Murphy to get this underway.
Thank you, Council President McEntee. Good evening. This is the third of 3 budget work sessions the Council holds and is holding for the FY 22-23 budget. This evening, as you had mentioned, this is for outside agencies and human service agencies requesting funding consideration from the town. For those following along at home in the budget document, that is tab 11, and it starts on 11-4, page 11-4. This evening, we will have our Director of Administrative Services, Lucas Murray, presenting an overview of the requests, and then we will hand it off to the Council President for the specific agency representatives who are here this evening. So I will hand off the discussion to Luke at this time.
Great, thank you. So tonight's a good night. I think we see a lot of familiar faces in the crowd, so you'll be moving on to them very soon. I'm just going to give you a brief introduction. Here's my inspiration for the night. In a world where you can be anything, be kind, and that's kind of what we're here for tonight, is to partner with our organizations, outside organizations and human service organizations, to leverage some public dollars for the public good. So I'm pleased to report that this year I've made some incremental changes in the application process. My goal is by next year to streamline the process further, to make it less cumbersome but still provide enough information for us to vet appropriately. I did receive some feedback. I'm going to be receiving more feedback. I always say feedback is a gift. So I've asked organizations to sit down with me. I know Deb Tanner has already offered to do so, and I have a scheduled meeting. We'll be updating the application, but this year we did change it to a form fillable PDF that can be electronically signed for those who can do so, and then provide, kind of cut down on some of the additional paperwork. So again, the goal is to give us what we need, but knowing that many of these organizations are smaller in size, and this becomes burdensome process. So this year, as you know, we allocate within the budget. The town manager recommends a budgeted amount. It was, in fact, level funded from last year, with the exception of a $20,741 bump. That was primarily for $20,000 for the celebrations for the 300th anniversary, in addition to a $741 bump for the Rhode Island League of Cities and Towns. So that money, the League of Cities and Towns celebrations, and the fire, is typically carved out in the budget. That is represented on your spreadsheet of the $52,567. The rest is really what we're hearing tonight. The organizations coming based on their applications, and we did receive 17 applications. That is one up from last year. Again, last year was budgeted slightly less because we didn't have these bumps in. However, we are over this year on the amount of requests. So I call your attention to the $27,200. That is over what we had originally anticipated. We did have a few latecomers, but we didn't want to exclude anybody out of the process. Many of the people you'll see tonight have applied before, have received funding before. So there's different ways to approach that. Tonight's really about information gathering and understanding the organizations and what their request is. So obviously there's some considerations, and you all know this. Many of you, or I think all of you, have gone through this process before, but really, what is the organizational mission, the benefit to the public, the ability to leverage additional grants. So that's a consideration if somebody already has a grant, that they can leverage that money with the town money. Supporting regular operations versus innovative projects. So I'm not saying that's a critical choice, but certainly new projects might be a consideration for council, especially capital-type project one-time expenses. But we do have, I will qualify that many of you know, some organizations do support their ongoing expenses with these funds. And then the ability of the funds to do the most good, because that's really what we're here for. So I'll start off the presentations. You'll notice the format in your presentation packet. All the formats are the same with the funding request up top. I put in last year's allocation that the council provided, in addition to whether there was an increase or decrease. And then there's also the previous 5 years to just give you a reflection on how much the council has allocated over the past 5 years to an individual organizations. Many of these organizations have come before you before. They will likely come before you again, so it certainly may be a consideration of what you've already allocated. So I'll start off with the Rhode Island League of Cities and Towns. I'll do the first two, and then we'll obviously put it out to the public. This one we don't require representation for. These are our annual dues. As many of you know, the League is a great resource, especially the administration and the council, on tapping into state issues, federal issues, keeping us informed, advocating for certain legislation for the benefit of municipalities. They keep us in touch with the governor's office. So they have a new executive director coming, so that's exciting. So it's a great organization and something we've always been a part of as long as I think the League's been around. Does anybody have any questions on that? Okay. I'll move on to celebrations. So the celebrations is typically carved out in the budget of $7,000, split 3 ways between different parades, including the Veterans Day Parade, the Memorial Day Parade, and the Firemen's Parade. I'm sure you have all gone. And then obviously this year we have the 300th celebration, which we added in the additional $20,000 carried in the budget recommended by the town manager. So the previous 5-year allocation was $35,000. Effectively, that's $7,000 year over year. And then I believe we have representatives here from the fire district, so I'll let them speak to their own slides.
Good evening. Thank you for having us back. Chief Steve Pinchman, the Union Fire District, and with me is Chief Tom Reed from the Kingston Fire District. As you can see, last year we had a $10,000 funding from the town that we used for scholarships. The scholarships went to family members of the district and also for one student from Proud and one from South Kingstown High School that was going to attend the university in either emergency medicine or firefighting science. So those were very helpful last year. We were able to give out 10 $1,000 scholarships. When I spoke to the previous town manager, we weren't sure how we were going to divide the 10,000, but when we saw what we got for applicants, we wanted to try to help as many people as possible. Prior to last year, the 2 districts were always funded about $7,200. Each station got a donation from the town of $800 a year to use in their stations, but we wanted to do something different to be a little better with recruitment and retention, so we moved to the scholarship program. So obviously, we're not asking for an increase, but we'd like to continue the program because it was well received by the members and the community. If anybody has any questions, we're happy to answer those.
How is recruitment going? Getting good volunteers?
Yes, I'll let Chief Reed speak when I'm done, but I would say we got a grant, as I mentioned before, from FEMA for recruitment, and it's been going pretty well, but it's kind of up and down. You get some in some months, and then some months a little slower. It's a tough game because there's a lot of requirements on the volunteers, but they're doing a great job. And we're moving more towards some type of like a duty schedule like Kingston already does so that people are at the station. So that's why we're doing some renovations to the stations to get it so people can stay there more. It enables volunteers from outside of town to also come and volunteer, which gives us a bigger base of firefighters.
And to answer that same question, like Chief Pinch said, our grant cycle went very well for recruitment and retention, but right now we're focusing more on retention of keeping the volunteers that we have trained in-house. My model in Kingston is a little different than UFD's because I have a residency program already established that's worked out very well for the service of the northern part of the state, or northern part of the town and their campus. But for most part, we're doing better than expected, I think, if you look at the industry trends and the nationwide trends for recruitment and retention, the town of South Kingstown's doing very well.
Forgive me for not knowing, but do we have like a link on the website if people want to volunteer for the fire department? Sounds like something.
The town website does have a link to the UFD and I believe KFD as well, so
Yes.
we do.
I just wanted to say that perhaps your chef at the firehouse in Kingston keeps your retention going on Thursday nights.
Yes, also does a very good job.
My coworker cooks every Thursday for all the guys, and I think it's a very nice bonding thing that's happening, so I wanted to recognize that.
Thank you, Chief Pinch. Thank you, Chief Reed. An excellent opportunity, so a great thing that you guys do. Thank you.
Thanks for your time. See you.
Next, we have the Johnny Cake Center.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Jennifer Kruger. I'm the Deputy Director at the Johnny Cake Center. Thanks for having us here tonight. Before I go into our request here, I just wanted to thank everybody on the Town Council and interim Town Manager Terry Murphy for everything that you've done to support us and to support the community and the folks that we serve. We have a pretty straightforward request tonight. We're asking for funds to support our school vacation meals and also for our home delivery program. So our delivery program obviously expanded during the pandemic, sometimes because of quarantine issues, sometimes it was just hard for people to get out. And that's something, honestly, even with aging in place, we're seeing a little bit more of that people have some barriers with transportation and things like that. In terms of the school vacation meals, certainly during the height of the pandemic, we were doing a whole lot of that when the kids were home. We're kind of back to more of a normal schedule of school vacations being the time that we try to supplement because kids aren't having access to breakfast and lunch at school. As a side note, about 75% of the folks that visit us are from South Kingstown, and we do tend to serve about 150 children in the town for those meals. So that's the request itself. You know, the other context would be obviously that there's been some inflation related to food costs and things like that. And although we're able to get about 45% of our food through the, we're able to get, doing the math, 55% of our food from the food bank, 45% we have to procure ourselves, and that's how we get produce and some of the other fresh foods. So we, again, thank you so much for your support, and if you have any questions about those specific programs, this is a request that we had made before.
Any questions for Jen?
Hey, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good to see you. So when people are thinking about making donations to Johnny Cake, what are your most needed food items?
Thanks for giving me a very short commercial. You know, when we're thinking about the school meals and things like that, cereal is really helpful. Obviously, we take all kinds of non-perishable goods. And what I tell people, honestly, is like things that you really like to have in your pantry, everybody else really likes to have in their pantry. So think about that when you're grabbing something off the shelf at the grocery store to donate. We're able to get a lot of really straightforward staples. But, you know, if there's something special or things that, you know, you make your favorite meal with, I guess I would like to inspire people to think about bringing that kind of diversity to our market.
Thank you, Jen.
Thanks.
Next, we have the Education Exchange.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jason Colonies. I'm the Executive Director of the Education Exchange. We've been in South Kingstown since 1978. We provide adult learner educational programs, English language acquisition programs, and several workforce training programs for the area of Washington County. We have gotten these funds before, and we thank you so much for them. They have really helped us through the pandemic. We turned our organization into a high-flex organization. which means that participants can come and participate face-to-face. They can also participate online. It has gotten rid of barriers such as transportation and childcare. It's been pretty amazing. In 2020 and 2021, we managed to have 65% job placement in all of our programming. And we've given out over 505 industrial recognized credentials. That is all through the blended learning platform. So it's been a pretty successful run for us. So we are asking for the same amount so we can keep up to date with our technology. There are hidden costs in insurance and things of that nature, so sometimes lines go into that. And we have a testing center for various credentials that we run that we have to pay a proctor for, so some of the costs go into that. We thank you for your support, and come and see our new place.
Excellent. Any questions for Jason? Thank you, Jason. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next, we have Chris Collins Foundation.
Good evening, and thank you for having me here. I appreciate being able to speak to you. Chris Collins Foundation has been in existence for about 4 years, named for my 20-year-old son, Chris, who died by suicide 4 years ago this month. And our primary focus for the foundation is we provide a student-led mental health program in the high school. This coming year, we're also going to be adding it to the junior high school, to Curtis Corner. The program trains the students who are part of the group to be peer leaders and to help shape the social norms and attitudes about mental health in the school. They learn about mental health with a day-long training seminar that the foundation pays for. We bring in a team of people from the University of Michigan Depression Center. That's a group who created this peer-to-peer program more than 10 years ago. And it's just an evidence-based program. They come in and do the training session, and then the students then take what they've learned and they build a campaign throughout the entire school year so that they can share what they've learned with their friends. They learn what the resources are in the school and in the community so that if they notice a friend is struggling, you know, they've been trained to be able to support them. They know that they're not counselors and not going to fix anybody's problems, but they can support them and also bring them to help. The program's been proven to work. They do surveys before and after the campaigns in all the schools that they're in, and the results have been extremely positive. So for the funding, we're requesting would be paying for continued training for the students. They also have a year-long support from the University of Michigan for any issues that come up with the program, any questions, feedback, suggestions, and so forth. We've also going to add this year a community-wide screening of an anxiety film called Angst. We were able to screen that last year with some of the school groups. It was a very powerful and informative film. We've also been partnering with a local company, as Two Sisters, who were SK High School graduates about 10 years ago, and they've created a guided mental health journal. So a lot of people know that journaling is good for your mental health, but looking at a blank page is daunting. So they've come up with this journal that has prompts on throughout, and the prompts are based on cognitive behavioral therapy, so it really helps people to kind of see what's going on with what they're thinking and ways they can turn it around a little bit. And like I said, we're also going to be adding the program in the middle school this fall. So that's why we're requesting the funding and answer any questions.
Any questions?
I think you do wonderful work. I have a question about the American Rescue Fund plans. Would that, if you weren't to get your full amount of funding, I know that the school department has about $3 million in funding for initiatives. Is that an avenue where perhaps you could look if you weren't fully funded here?
Possibly. I know one of the big benefits of the program and the foundation is we fund everything completely, so we take that possibility of the school struggling to find funds out of the equation. You know, obviously the students' mental health is too important to jeopardize with a, what if we can get, or the school can get funding somewhere else.
I was similar vein of questioning. I know that last week the state announced settlement for the opioid monies, and we should be seeing a significant amount from that, I would think.
That's correct.
With the mantle of the Partnership for Prevention that you've sort of assumed over the years, if some of that money might be available.
Yes, the state is suggesting a community-based committee be formed to make recommendations for how to best utilize those funds that the cities and towns will be receiving from the opioid settlement. So, in fact, some of the organizations that are here tonight would probably be quite suitable for that type of funding.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Newport County.
Hi, good evening. Michael Coelho. I'm Director of Operations and Programs at the Boys and Girls Club of Newport County. First of all, I'd like to say thank you. Thank you for your support over the years, and thank you for having me here tonight. The request that we have here, I believe, is the same that it's been for the last few years. We're looking to be able to fund scholarships for kids in the community. In the past few years, we've had over 55 kids from the South Kingstown community attend our camp. We've been in South Kingstown since 2018. We had some parents come over to our club and looking for something where their kids can fit in and belong a little better. So we've been running after-school programs. We've at Curtis Corner for the last couple of years. During COVID, we tried to go virtual because we didn't have space to do it. During that time, we were delivering care packages and meals to families. A good majority of our kids live in Curtis Corner in the Meadowbrook area. Pre-COVID, we were at the Guild for a little bit, and Terry was there, and she fully supported us and had our backs while we were there. But this is specifically for summer camp, and trying to keep the kids engaged in a safe environment this summer.
Excellent. Thank you, Michael. Any questions for Michael? All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next, we have Kane Child Development Center.
Councilman, I don't think, I did get a late message, that somebody was not able to come from Kane this evening. But
Next week.
I would just, sorry, I'll add to that, is that this falls in line with the standard requests they have gotten for about a decade now. And it's primarily focused on facility repair, including the roof and some heating work that needs to be done, as well as some ongoing operational expenses.
Thank you, Luke. Next, we have Neighbors Helping Neighbors of Rhode Island.
Good evening. Thanks for having us. I'm Patricia Harmon. I'm Vice President of Neighbors Helping Neighbors of Rhode Island. And I want to start by thanking you for your support for several years now. And last year was a nice bump, a nice increase, and we're asking for level funding for this year. We've pretty much already spent the 2 home repairs, or at least one will be done on this coming Saturday, which is an interesting project that involves 5 windows, a single mother who is supporting 2 teenage children. The dad has left the household. One's in high school, one's starting college, and the windows were leaking and not able to be locked, so the huge air leaks, so the fuel is going right out the window. And on the first level, it's a split. On the first level, they couldn't be locked anymore, which is a safety issue. So this Saturday, we're going to be in action over there, working with a partner that we've gotten for contractor and our volunteers to replace all 5 windows. So we're really excited about that. And that's going to be about $3,500, just that, when we're all done with it. But we use the money, our our vision is to eliminate homelessness in South County, and our mission is to do it one household at a time. We serve low-income homeowners that meet HUD requirements, and the repairs are free of charge to these people that qualify. So, with COVID, certainly the costs of materials have gone up, and it's been more important than ever to have safe, secure homes. And we serve all of the towns in Washington County, whether or not the town funds us. Pretend you didn't hear that, because it's just we believe it's so important. There are no salaried positions. It's a completely volunteer organization. The only overhead is things like liability insurance for our volunteers, things like that. So that's basically it. We get money in from grants, donations, and we request money from all the towns that we serve. And when we get it, we spend it and we do the projects. And when we run out of money, we can't do any more. So that's pretty much it. We prioritize based on the urgency of the repair and the funds available. So, any questions at all?
You're one of my favorite groups. I think that I was really moved that you operate out of like a file cabinet. That's your,
Yes.
So that was really you really have converted everything into service and
Yes.
work for others. So I really do appreciate that. I don't know if you applied or that we have rescue money set aside for social service agencies. I don't remember in the summer if...
I attended a virtual meeting in June on that,
Okay.
but I hadn't heard any more, and an application was sent in, but I didn't write the application. But if there's any, and I did call a couple times to say...
So we'll be getting to that again, and I just wanted to make sure that you knew I want you to come back and ask for whatever, because I think you're doing a lot of good for people that might be almost invisible to other people in the community. So I just wanted to make sure you knew that was coming again.
That's good to know. I thought that perhaps since I hadn't heard anything, that was off the table. As far as I know, we're the only organization that does this. I know the Elks, to the best of my knowledge, had a program that was similar. We worked with them to train them, and they're having a problem finding volunteers. And of course, with the Washington County CDC closing, we partnered with them on a lot of the big repairs. And for example, right now there's a cracked water tank in someone's well that'd be a $10,000 repair, and that's beyond our capability to do. So that's leaving a big gap and more unserved people. Plus, we always think it's nice to keep people in their homes so that they don't get evicted, keep the houses on the tax rolls, and keep them out of the lists of people that that are waiting for affordable housing in the towns here, which we know is getting harder and harder to find. So, thank you very much. Any other questions?
Thank you, Patricia. Excellent work that you do. Any further questions?
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you again for your support. We couldn't do it without generous folks and support from the towns. Thank you.
Next, we have Southern Rhode Island Volunteers.
Good evening. Thank you so much for inviting us. My name is Deb Tanner. I'm the current executive director. But I do want to share with you a little bit, and then I want to turn it over to Lindsay Tanner, who will be the executive director as of July 1st. For my 65th birthday this year, I am going to retire as the executive director after 22 years, and I am going to continue to support the organization through grant writing and whatnot. I did want to share that COVID-19 and the pandemic, we all recognize that for the last 2 years, things have been very different for all of us. The numbers of people that we served increased greatly, but one of the things that the pandemic did that I think is a very positive thing is it identified many seniors in our communities who are in need who didn't say anything prior to the pandemic. They liked to fly under the radar, let me not raise attention to my situation because I don't want anybody to take me out of my home, tell me I have to go to some kind of communal living situation or something. So in that way, this pandemic was actually a very positive thing. It helped us to identify our seniors in need. One of the things that I think is just an amazing service that came from that is we started to work with Belmont Market. We started with Tiger and the VFW, the Lions and the Elks. We started delivering groceries when everybody was in shutdown mode. In March of 2020, when that started to come together and everything, initially in those first months in that first year, between 500 and 700 homes received delivery of food. These organizations came together and we kept our neighbors from starving during what was a crisis that was beyond what any of us could have ever imagined. And it wasn't that we were out there being brave souls. I was scared to death out on the streets. The thing I'm most proud of is Southern Rhode Island Volunteers never closed our doors. We were open during the entire pandemic period. We continued to provide services to our seniors, and especially food to make sure people were food secure and whatnot. As of today, that service at Belmont continues. Tomorrow, I will be at Belmont Market coordinating grocery delivery for our most frail seniors. Most of them are 90 or older who get that now. In South Kingstown, there are 21 of them. They were not clients prior to the pandemic. These are our seniors who need this service vitally. There are 58 individuals countywide receiving that service. The eldest is 104, but he lives in Narragansett, not here in South Kingstown. So I personally wanted to say thank you to all of you. As a taxpayer in South Kingstown, it has been my pleasure to serve, but also I appreciate your support year after year. And with that, I'll turn it over to Lindsay so that she can give you the stats. Thank you.
I mean, I'm not really sure how to follow that up.
You got time. You got to go to 65.
Yeah. We are asking for level funding for the programs that we have been running for a long time. We do Meals on Wheels delivery out of the Senior Center in South Kingstown. We do the Belmont delivery, and we also transport to other grocery stores and medical appointments. We serve about 800 seniors annually, almost half of them just being from South Kingstown alone. And the majority of them are in our transportation program, because even though we do have buses that run through South Kingstown, I'm sure you all know, can you find a bus stop? Because I can't. Our cash budget is only $190,000, so we try to keep it as low cost as we can, and we don't charge any of our clients to use the services. And we are asking to support our mileage, liability, communications, and supplies with this grant.
Lindsay, any questions? Thank you, Lindsay. Thank you, Deb. And Deb, congratulations on your upcoming retirement. Well deserved. Next, we have Wakefield Village Association.
I'm Jan Bartwell. I'm representing the Wakefield Village Association tonight. Ken Tetzner was supposed to be here, but he's feeling a little bit under the weather. So the Wakefield Village Association is a group of merchants, professionals, volunteers, artists, nonprofits, who we've banded together, and our goal is to enhance the already strong sense of community that exists in Wakefield on Main Street and the surrounding villages. We do that by hosting events from during the summer and through the Christmas season. Last couple of years, we haven't been able to do many events due to the pandemic, but we're looking forward to a strong season this year. And the first event that's going to happen, and it happens from the early part of June through the summer, is the River Fire that takes place every Thursday night in Wakefield. And years ago, the town council, or the town, through the grants, they were instrumental in helping us to get the baskets to start River Fire. And we're finding that those baskets are now in need of a little bit of maintenance, so we would like to have some funds to maintain those baskets so they can still go strong and the event can continue. We'd also like to look into purchasing some solar lights to go along the river. so they would make it a little bit easier for pedestrians at night to see where they're going, and it's also going to enhance the look of that area. Oh, and the second thing that we wanted to talk to you about is the lights downtown. Each year, the Wakefield Village Association takes on the task of lighting the trees in the downtown area. And we found that the trees have really lost some limbs and taken down some of the lights, and we really need to do some maintenance there. And we'd also like to look into extending the lights beyond the downtown area, up Main Street and down Main Street. So we're looking for ways to do that. So we really appreciate the partnership that we've had with the town of South Kingstown over the years, and we'd like to continue to work together to do what we can to enhance the community, not only downtown, but the surrounding villages.
Thank you, Jen. Any questions for Jen?
Hi. I'm not sure if you know, is anyone from the Wakefield Village Association on the 300th Anniversary Celebration Committee?
That I don't know.
Oh, you know the answer, Terry?
Yes, I do. Ken Burke is on it.
Okay.
there's
Because that's
another-
where we could collaborate a little bit better and coordinate. And then I didn't know if you knew that the Saugatucket Park is
Yes.
slated to be refurbished and enhanced, and so perhaps some of your ideas would be
Work together with that.
yes. I just wanted to make sure that
Oh, yeah. We are definitely aware of that.
great.
Thank you, Jen. We look forward to the upcoming events. They certainly bring the community together, and that's an important thing, so thank you. Next, we have Narrow River Preservation Association. Got it.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting us come here this evening, and I thank you for hosting this opportunity for the Narrow River Preservation Association, NRPA, to represent our request for municipal funding to support our water quality monitoring program, Riverwatch. There are two of us present from NRPA tonight, myself, Richard Grant, the president of NRPA Board of Directors, and Rebecca Russell, the program director of our organization. I will be presenting highlights from NRPA's organizational history, mission, and achievements for you to see clearly the tremendous effort of volunteers in our Riverwatch program. In 2021 alone, we had 33 volunteers following the direction of nationally EPA recognized Annette De Silva and Veronica Borowski, both NRPA board volunteers, for the past 30 years to develop and run the Riverwatch program that NRPA is asking South Kingstown to contribute, sharing the cost of operating along with the towns of Narragansett and towns of North Kingstown and Narragansett. First of all, NRPA is a 401c nonprofit formed in 1970 and driven by the combined effort of a volunteer board of 15 directors and a part-time contracted program director. The mission of NRPA is to preserve, protect, and restore the Narrow River and its watershed. The Narrow River watershed basin lies within 3 townships, including South Kingstown, Narragansett, and North Kingstown. One day, the RI Foundation asked 3 NRPA board officers that were discussing RIF funding at the time, how many cumulative years have the 3 of you been on the board? To which we answered 90 years. This underscores the longevity and commitment of our collegiate board. Of the 7 focus areas in our strategic plan, water quality is ranked number 1 with Riverwatch program being the flagship program of this focus area. NRPA's other focus areas include, in addition to number one, water quality, land issues, education, fundraising, marketing and development, financial management, and events. Some examples of NRPA program areas and events that are provided to educate the public about watershed health and issues. Other areas I can mention are watercraft safety, high school science fair awards, college scholarship programs, production, dissemination of tide charts specific to Middlebridge Road and Marina, fourth grade environmental education classes about osprey and other wildlife living in the Narrow River watershed, expert review of boat dock permit and applications through CRMC, communication with town commissions and partnering with agencies, and tracking issues pertaining to sea level rise and dredging along the shore. Rebecca is available to share a synopsis of our Riverwatch program and answer specific questions, if you have any, regarding Riverwatch and our request for South Kingstown municipal funding toward operating this water quality molded program. And I introduce Rebecca.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks for having us tonight. And thank you for your previous years of funding. I believe we go back about 3 years now with a sustaining request for the 1950. So the Riverwatch program, as Richard mentioned, is our flagship program, which was started 30 years ago by two of the founding board members who are ecologists specializing in riverine and coastal ecology, both of whom have worked for URI over the years. And so this program was created in lockstep with URI's Watershed Watch program. Finding my perfect distance from this microphone. And we have long-standing relationships with the Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services, the Nature Conservancy, the three towns, yourself, Narragansett, and North Kingstown. As Richard mentioned, the three towns have a portion of their residential zoning that lies within the watershed basin. So we've gone to the three towns to request a portion of the operating costs of the program be covered. And to emphasize, there's a $0 cost to the monitoring component of our program. It's entirely volunteer-based. Last year alone, we had 33 volunteers who are members of the organization. We have about 650 volunteers right now, many of whom are from South Kingstown, including Richard lives in South Kingstown. And so our volunteers do the legwork, and that's where hundreds of hours of time is not being paid for, where typically most programs that do research are paying for that field time. So there's a tremendous savings there, and the only costs that we pay are for the Watershed Watch staff who analyze the samples, and we pay for the consumables that are disposed after certain tests are run, and for their time. And they also do a little bit of training with our new volunteers each year. But we have a large number of returning volunteers year to year now that we've been going for 30 years. The total overall annual cost for running this program, which are entirely to pay the Watershed Watch folks who are analyzing the samples, is just under $10,000. And that's for 13 monitoring sites, which we will again approach in this year. Our season runs from May to October, where we have folks outside collecting samples. So out of that $10,000, we haven't asked for an increase in funding from South Kingstown. We estimate that approximately 10 to 15% of South Kingstown residents live within the watershed basin. And so many people love Narrow River. If they don't live directly within it, they certainly know where to access it and take advantage of boating, kayaking, fishing, swimming. And so in addition to the recreational functions of this beautiful natural resource, there's also the ecological functions it serves, which we as an organization are committed to protecting, the drinking water quality, groundwater recharge protections. So as a state-designated watershed council, we do have standing at various forums, such as these town meetings, and we're able to advocate for wise development policies and decisions that developers and towns would be making that would potentially impact the watershed. And just to highlight, the goals of this program are to involve the community in participating directly with protecting water quality, educating the public about water quality, and taking a deep breath here, a little nervous. We have a public presence on our website where we allow access to our data, which at this point is 30 years of data. And as you may know, these longer trends are very important for understanding the impacts of some of these mitigation effects like stormwater filtration methods that are being employed due to the trends that we identify, where bacteria is coming from, where certain point sources of pollution are coming from. We can help pinpoint with our monitoring, and then we can see 5 years out, 10 years out, how those development changes have improved the water quality. So we've got that on our website. Folks here are welcome to check that out. And in addition to encouraging sound management practices, we involve the engagement with our members and our volunteers that are outside of our membership and interns through the URI Watershed Watch program. So it's a really active community effort to help protect this beautiful resource. Any questions?
So a friend of mine is in the Friends of the Saugatucket. Do you collaborate, or I didn't know if you collaborated with that organization, because just thinking about the Saugatucket River is not yet at that level of involvement. But.
Yes, good question. We do. In fact, Richard has met a couple of times with Bill Cusker. He's the president, McCusker, that's right. And they're having a meeting this Friday to they invited a number of watershed councils, including ours, to discuss our tactics for reducing litter in the watershed. So I'll be meeting with Bill this Friday to discuss and share ideas. So absolutely, and being such a successful nonprofit with this flagship program, we're able to help other programs build their monitoring programs. So yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Excellent, excellent job, excellent work you guys do. Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, everyone.
Next, we have South County History Center.
Hello. I'm going to preface my comments by saying I have not spoken in front of a group of people in 2 years, so please bear with me. My name is Erica Luke. I am the Executive Director of the South County History Center. We are an archive, museum, and research center. We maintain the largest collection of historical materials solely focused on the history of South Kingstown and South County. A few examples of what we have in the collection. We have a 25,000 plus piece photograph collection of photos that were taken by Ken Mars, who was a South Kingstown resident. We also have the historical archive of the South County Hospital. We have Civil War letters, all kinds of things. And I wanted to thank you for the town's funding for fiscal year 2021. The funding was used to process the records that we hold from the town itself. So those records date from 1714, so before the town was even formally founded, up to 1996. And they include manumission and indenture bonds, records related to the Revolutionary War, Civil War, World War II, school records, a lot of great material that people will be able to use for generations to come. So our goal beyond preserving and growing the collection is to provide access to the materials. And we do that on site. We do that with virtual researchers that are here and across the country. We mount exhibits and present public programs, and then we also work in partnership with educators, the university, town committees, and things like that. So we're headquartered in the Old Washington County Jail, which is in the Kingston Historic District. And over the last few years, we've been overhauling the building in many ways to add new archival storage space, digitization, studio, and upgrading our HVAC system. So all of that work has been being done so that we can increase our storage space and make sure that those collections that we are holding are preserved for the future. And it also helps to make our organization more environmentally and financially sustainable. So over the last few years with that project underway, we've invested more than $250,000 in completed and planned projects for many funders, including the National Endowment for the Humanities, the Champlain Foundation, the 1772 Foundation, and many other individuals and institutions. So we're requesting a grant of $15,000 from the town to support the replacement of the roof on the old jail. And also to do some repairs to some decaying exterior mortar that's up near the roof line. This grant would help to fulfill the matching requirement for a recently awarded state preservation grant, and that grant is in the amount of $42,075. The total project budget is about $98,000, and we've secured about $58,000 so far, including the state preservation grant. If the town were able or were willing to support this effort, I think it would also help us to secure the remaining funds that would be needed. It would be about another $15,000. It would definitely show that we have the community support for our work. And I'll just close by saying that South Kingstown's history, it really is of national significance. So many of the researchers that we work with are people that have roots here, or that are here, but there's also so many people across the country that are interested in the history of this community. We would be honored, of course, to host you if you have any questions you want to come down and see the collections. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica, and I will say that you are a natural speaking at the podium, so nice job.
Thank you.
Next, we have South Kingstown Housing Authority.
Hi, good evening. Thank you, Council President McEntee and council members, and particularly Councilwoman Kelso for kind of giving us the nudge and letting us remember that we had a timeline to get in this request. So just to go back to the context of how we got here, as many of you remember, several years ago there was a major change in terms of the board leadership and the Housing Authority, and subsequently we were very fortunate to be able to attract and hire a terrific executive director, Laura Lee Costello, who's done a fantastic job at helping us stabilize operations and position ourselves successfully for the future. So in early 2021, we met with the town manager and we said, might it be possible that we could get a forgiveness of our pilot for 3 years, because that would help give us some additional operating funds to deal with the operational problems we have, and then perhaps be able to help position us as to where we're going to go forward. And he encouraged us to do so, and we submitted a request, which this council, which thank you, turned into a grant last year of $18,000, which is for those purposes. And we're here again to say, first of all, thank you for everything, because in the past year, what we have done in the Housing Authority, I think, has really shown that we've been able to turn around operations significantly. And it's been coming substantially with the help of collaboration and support from people in the public that we've been reaching out to. Certainly the police department and the Union Fire District have been terrific at helping us. The Union Fire District recently just doing a survey of the residences to make sure that we understand the status of smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors, many of which are not installed in units and are part of our planning. Second, We've had certainly community action groups, social groups like Johnny Cake, which has helped us a great deal, and the Lions Club has stepped up and helped funding, and we've received a lot of support from a number of churches that have stepped up, and their congregations are trying to help us with things such as the playgrounds that are really in still bad shape. And with the great work that Laura Lee has done, we've been able to even out our operations and get some grants, and we've received some great help from Terry and the town staff in terms of dealing with the maze of HUD regulations on how do we account for these funds, which led to really the success in the laundry facility that opened in December and has been very successful, and was very helpful with trying to get approval through HUD for funding which will allow us to pay for new security cameras that will work, that the police department has been looking at for years because our cameras don't work, and we need those for the security of the residents very much in all of our facilities. So where are we going? And the second phase is the next step, and we do have before you a request. We were here in the work session last May, I think, in terms of potentially ARPA spending, talking about this vision of the next step of rebuilding, not just rebuilding the housing we have, but expanding the housing. The Curtis Corner property, for example, is 10.5 acres. It has 40 housing units. If we followed just simply the zoning density of your cottage zoning, we could clearly have the opportunity to add more housing, perhaps starter homes. We have also had preliminary discussions with other nonprofits that have been involved and interested in supporting housing about making available land that we could partner with them to add additional starter homes and to be able to, and fortunately through the Housing Authority, and we created a related nonprofit, SKHA Services and Development Corp., which just this week, finally after 8 months, received our IRS tax-exempt determination letter, which allows us access to foundations which will not give funding to housing authorities. And this is really important to give us the access to funding and the tools through which we can perhaps really do the kind of model that really works in communities. East Greenwich being a good example, which has had this partnering of a nonprofit which really holds and develops a lot of property, and the Housing Authority is strong through its relationship to it. So we're still at the stage, and we have before you an ARPA request, which maybe if this money is granted, it's certainly going to modify to a large extent our need for ARPA funds, but it would be going to trying to get jump-starting. Now that we have our tax-exempt determination, we would be using this to help put together the pieces of money that we have, that we think we can get now through a little bit of arm twisting with HUD, which is, Laura Lee's done a great job in trying to work with HUD to give us a little more discretion on what we can use and building up surplus funding, working with some nonprofits so we can get underway to do the master planning and the financial feasibility studies to see how can we best deliver on a picture of both new and expanded affordable, low-income housing opportunities for people in this community. So that's really where the money's going to go. The money's going to go into this plan to help us do that. So when we arrived at the money number initially, it was based upon roughly what is our pilot. Our pilot goes up and down each year because of a formula that is calculated going back to the time that the Housing Authority was established. It may be, but that's how it arrived at last year to the $18,000. We're asking for $20,000. We certainly could use a lot more. That's what we have in our ARPA request. But right now we're trying to get the funds in place so we can get the consultants on board, the types of consultants that the town engaged, not necessarily the same ones because we have to go through the process, but those kinds of consultants like what you did with your cottage zoning ordinance to come up with a plan, a vision, so that the town can see that the future of the Housing Authority is going to be something that is really going to be a community for this community that enhances our community and is something that people are proud of and not embarrassed about. So thank you very much. That's where we are, and thank you very much for the support we've received from the council, from Terry, from the staff, and certainly from town departments over the past year.
Thank you, Chris. All right, fine job. Thank you, Chris. We appreciate it. Next, we have the Southern Rhode Island Chamber of Commerce.
Councilman, I didn't receive a response back.
We have Joe Veely here.
Oh.
Joe, I will say, it is strange seeing you on the other end of the aisle here.
It's strange on this side, too. Thank you for having me tonight. My application pretty much goes into, and you guys are fairly familiar, but I'll give you a brief description. 600-member business support organization. We provide many businesses with one-to-one support, which is important to them. The location of our building is pretty key. It allows us to direct a lot of the tourist and other activity into our business district in South Kingstown. We have a fairly aggressive educational program for the business community. A couple of the programs that we do besides the education, and one of them I think that's really important, we run a gift certificate program that promotes totally local spending. So tens of thousands of dollars a year that's directed to our membership, primarily retail, hospitality, those kinds of businesses. Over 200 of our members, probably 220 members, participate in the program. Again, it comes to them at no cost. So all the administrative costs are taken care of by the chamber, and there are no processing fees. It's all, if a retailer or a restaurant takes $100 or $200 in chamber gift certificates, they get a check for the $200. It's totally, no cost to them, but a huge benefit to them. It keeps, at certain times of the year, so the busy time obviously is the holiday season, but you would be amazed how many, it's almost as busy at the end of the school year. Teachers, bus drivers, aides, everybody's getting these gift certificates. We sell a ton of them. So those are a couple of the programs. I mean, the chamber was challenged in COVID, but we never closed. We were open every day. We have a very strong retention rate for membership. It dropped very little during COVID, so I think that our members identified that they needed our services more. So in COVID, we provided a lot of PPE supplies and grant direction, that kind of support for them. So again, you guys, I think, are fairly familiar with what our organization does. I think I've given an overview for the public, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Joe.
I'm not leaving. No.
Here, let me pull up a chair.
Next, we have Domestic Violence Resource Center.
Let me look around the room this time before I... But we did get a late call on this as well. They were not able to attend this evening. But again, this is an organization the council has approved for contributions for in the past, supports their programming. As you can see, the helpline is one core program that they're looking to support. So they did put an application in this year requesting the same as last fiscal year.
Thank you, Luke. I think last but not least, the VFW Post 916.
Congratulations. You're awesome. You guys are awesome. Thank you for giving Hilly a job once a week. Delivering. Keeps them away from the VFW. We appreciate it. Hi, I'm Joe Patrick, Tiger Patrick with the VFW. For some reason, my throat got cloudy since I sat in here. I don't know. Must be a new cologne I'm trying or something. Anyway, it's interesting to see. So 17 over the last 5 years. Interesting. We took off 1,000 from last year's request because we have included Charlestown into our net of attracting funds. All of this money is basically used to keep our doors open, to pay the utilities. We also jumped in. I saw my friend and classmate Stevie Pinch with the fire department. We also put in to get some funding for the pandemic grant. Whenever that's released, please know I'll be standing in line somewhere. And making it harder for you to say no. But we're not trying to be a burden to anybody, and so all of this is just to keep our doors open. And basically, our building has turned into a community outreach program on so many different levels. Last month, or the last 2 months, we distributed over 300 coats. It started out from a grant from Job Lot. They gave us 100, and the demand was high, and boom, 300, and we opened it up to all citizens. And so we're real excited, real happy to be able to do that. But we're doing something all the time. And we've had a program that's been started 2 years ago, just before COVID, where we had a service officer, a veteran service officer come. They're like an advocate, lawyer sort of person to teach veterans and their family members how to navigate the very complex VA system. And before, I think the senior center was the only entity in the area that offered, and they had a retired one. We have an accredited one. Now we have 2, including one of my officers. She's going through the training. And it takes a couple years to get the dollar monies back, but we've crossed $300,000 in benefit coming back to veterans. So that would include areas of grants for going to school, kind of educational stuff, vocational, but also medical pensions, getting their ratings higher. And so increasing pay from, say, a couple $100s a month to over $1,000 to $2,000. So those are going back directly back to our families and greatly impacting them. And so I'm not going to promise we're going to ask for less next year. I'm going to see how we're doing. But we really need it. We really need a lot more. But we're making it, and we're not going to be a burden to anyone. So you guys all know me, see my stuff on Facebook. So is there anything else, any questions? I'm really tired. No?
All right, thank you.
You're doing a good job over there, buddy.
All right, that brings us to the end. I would like to say all of the organizations here do excellent work. They provide a valuable service to the residents of South Kingstown, and the allocations here are an important part of our budget. As to the schedule going forward, the council will make initial decisions at the preliminary budget adoption on March 21st. We will subsequently hold 2 public hearings in April, and then we will have final budget adoption at the end of April. But before we close, if there are any residents who would like to come up and speak on this matter, I will allow them to do that. And if you do so, just please identify yourself and go from there.
I'm Deb Tanner, and I am a resident and taxpayer in the town of South Kingstown, and I've never done this, but I would just like to say that I was very impressed by the Chris Collins Foundation, and as a taxpayer in the town of South Kingstown, I know they're asking for extra money. I would absolutely support that. Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. Anyone else like to speak before we close the meeting? All right, thank you again. Oh, go ahead, Deb.
Well, are we going to speak? Because this is the last work session.
Oh, yeah, you can speak.
So I didn't know. It's nothing to do with the outside agencies. Really, I think you all do fabulous work, and I would give you lots of money if I was in charge of all the money. But we met Monday, and we met last week with the schools. I just wanted to, we won't have an opportunity before we adopt the budget to really give you some feedback. So for me, I'm taking all of this in, looking at the home evaluations, water's going to go up, the tipping fee, the trash waste is going to pass on to the cost. That there's a lot of expenses that this community is going to have to grapple with. So I was hoping that the town staff could provide a list of some options to reduce the tax rate to go under 11. It's $11.02. Maybe we could get under into the 10s. Would be helpful, like if we could have a list of options. I certainly don't want to reduce current staff, but maybe we could look at the health care. We could look at new positions, just so that we could sort of see what it is, because I don't want to sort of do it on the fly on the 21st, but to look at either delaying some things so that we're sort of sensitive to the community. I'm very much aware of inflation, all of those things are going to change people's budgets, and if we can look at some of the expenses that we have to try to be more sensitive, that would be important to me. I didn't know, like last year, the end of the budget transfer, like we finished last year with a surplus, so do we need to look at taking more from the undesignated fund anticipating that transfer. I just don't want to have no options and work coming up. Have options for to sort of look at trying to come in under $11. Is it possible to get that by Monday?
So I would, it's really a council decision as to what you may want to identify within the budget for reductions. Zach and I did have a conversation because we did see that this request exceeded what was level funded from last year. So that's kind of a broad range of, there are many different options. I guess we would be, and I'll have Zach chime in too, looking for a little more direction from the council as to what that might look like. We can certainly, there are multiple options to consider. A little more direction from the council might.
On Monday, we talked about identifying some expenses that we could reduce in general. So I just wanted to restate that. I would be looking for options.
We can show some, we can show the council some variations of the budget in terms of what the impact would be of reducing to a certain level of a tax rate, and where cuts and or other funds transfers may be identified.
So for example, like to reduce it by a nickel to get to 1098, is that reducing 600,000? Is it usually you're good at that. Calculator man. So
one penny is going to, about 68,000 is generated off of 1 penny on the tax roll. So if you want to drop it 5 cents, it's about 300 and something thousand.
So you could probably do a little bit, in my mind, you could do a little bit better, it could come a little bit lower. But I'm just looking at the cost of fuel, the cost of the increase in the water that John mentioned, the increase in, the tipping fees. All of those things are, the average home evaluation, could, the person could see an unexpected increase in lots of areas. It's just going to, just to be sensitive to those people. Mostly I care about senior citizens living in their home as long as possible. So when you try to be sensitive to that, that's what I'm asking for.
We can certainly share some information with the council by Monday so that you have some things to consider.
And Terry, I think she's Monday the 21st is the date we're referring to, right? That would
That's
be
a
the
preliminary
adoption,
budget
So information prior to
adoption.
that
Yes.
date is useful. And we've already asked Zach as to his recommendations, what he would do if, in fact, we decided to reduce the tax levy from the 2.2% increase from the prior year. So just going off that, any recommendations, from the finance director, from the manager, as to ways to achieve going downward, if we were, in fact, to go in that direction, is helpful. So, yeah.
So like the police, for example, the 2 new police officers, we could fund them, we could delay it 6 months, we could create an overtime fund where we did community engagement on overtime. There's lots of ways to do that. Looking at not having a police chief, or having an acting police chief at the end of March, having a new town manager. I just don't want to set someone up in a direction that they don't want to go and set us up in that's a very expensive chunk, and maybe that's something we look at.
So the 2 additional police officers are funded by federal dollars, so they're budget neutral right now. It would be 2 years of funding. It would be in fiscal 2025 is when you would start to have to fully come up with a plan to fund those police officers.
Okay.
But I just want to make sure that is the charge to try to come back with proposals to get the tax rate below 11 or to 1090. Is that what you're asking, or
I
is there
wouldn't
a
want to
specific
commit
charge
to
that you want?
I think that the community would like you to come up with the best value for them. Like, what do we need? What do we not need? That we could eliminate some of those things, given the landscape of what we have right now.
So
where gas is this and oil is this.
It's my understanding, and I'm you'd have to check the charter, but I believe the charter would ask, the manager proposes a budget. If there's any changes, the council has to identify those changes, and we can go back and work those, but we can come up with suggestions. But for every expense we reduce or increase, there has to be an increase or decrease in revenue, so I think we can put something together for you so that you can entertain those options like we did last year. And you can make that decision. I think last year we gave 3 or 4 options, and then you made a decision at the preliminary adoption and related to the school funding, whether we increased, decreased, and we gave scenarios and different, you had the option, then you selected one. So I think we could do something, propose something similar to you, if that's what you're looking for.
Okay.
So the way I look at it, Zach, is you are the expert, highly competent. We rely on you heavily. We know you do a great job, and the manager has proposed a budget. But in the event that we do want to propose considerations apart from that, we do rely on you and Terry to help us give us that information, and we'll go from there. Thank you. So if there's no more questions, all right, that brings us to the end of this meeting, and thank you for everyone's time.